Hello guys, my name is Lucas and welcome. Today we're going to learn how to pick up items from the floor and put them into our inventory. So we're going to start by fixing the quantity text of our items. If you see now, only when I stack up two items together, the number appears. But remember when we had like 4 potions, here I have 4 potions, and I started using them, you see that even though I'm using the HP potions, there is no number showing how many potions we have left. So let's quickly go to the item class and we're going to make a new function. Let's make it public, void, and we're going to call it set quantity text. And if you notice, there is a quantity text object here. So we want to find this object and change the text. So transform dot find quantity text dot get component. We don't have the text component here because we are not using Initializing.ui. So let's tell our program that we're using Initializing.ui, and now we can actually here get the text component, and we're gonna get the text from this, and we're going to set it equal to quantity dot to string. So this is going to get the quantity and make it a string so we can use it and display it there next to our item. Now we need to call this set quantity text whenever we want to update our text. That means when we deplete it, we want to set quantity text, and also we want to set the quantity text on our start. I forgot my parentheses. Here on start, we're going to also set quantity text. So now if we play this, you will see that our items will have a 1 next to them, or depending on their quantity. But you see the HP potion has no number next to it, even though it is an item. So what is happening here? What's happening is that HP potion has its own version of start. So what we have to do is add the keyword protected virtual to our start function in item, and then you will see that HP potion actually show us a warning saying that this function here is hiding a function that we can use from the base class. So what we're going to do is I'm going to delete this whole function and I'm going to type override, and you'll see that it asks me if I want to override start, and then it calls the base dot start, and then here we can do custom HP potion start. So we're going to call the item start, which is setting the quantity text, and then we will do whatever HP potion has to do, and now you will see that it will also update the text next to it, just like everybody else. We also set it here on deplete, so if this item, the HP potion, had a quantity of, let's say 5, now if we use it, you see it starts updating the number as we use it, and when it's gone, it disappears. Okay, so now we're setting the quantity text. Now we want to create our drop, our loot. So I'm going to use the HP potion, but I'm going to create a sprite with this. So I just drag it into the scene, and I'm going to drag it to the right a little bit, and you can see something's moving there. That's our potion. I'm going to position it in front of our player. Right now it's a bit small, so I'm going to scale it 3-fold. So you see an object there, that's the potion. We want to add a box collider because we want to pick the potion whenever our player walks through it. So I will check here in the scene view, the size of the collider is a little bit big, so we're going to resize it to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. That's better size. And we are going to create a class for this object. So I know some people like to call this item 3D. You can call it drop, you can call it loot, you can call it whatever you like. In this case, I'm going to call it drop. No, not a drop down menu, sorry. Drop, and we're going to make a new script called drop. So drop is also going to be a mono behavior because it's going to be attached to this game object here. We're not going to be using the update nor the start function yet. We're going to delete them. We just want to focus on trigger enter. Because it's on trigger enter, make sure that your HP potion here is a trigger. And now we want to check if the collider that we're entering with is the player. So if other dot compare tag player. Then we're going to add this item to our inventory. We tried to add this item to our inventory. Why try? Well, our inventory might be full. So if it's full and we cannot add it, we're not going to pick the item. And so we're going to try to add this item to our inventory. To do this, we want to, first of all, instantiate a prefab, which is going to be the item in our inventory. Right now we don't have that prefab, but we have the item here, the HP potion. So we're going to go to my prefabs folder. I'm going to create a new folder called items. And inside the items folder, I'm going to create a prefab with my HP potion. I also want a prefab of my drop, so I'm going to make a new folder called drops. And I'm going to drag the HP potion we created here. But before that, I'm going to call it HP potion drop so we can distinguish. And I'm going to put it into this folder. So now we can use this prefab to create the item in our inventory. So I'm going to make a reference, a game object. We're going to make it a serialized field first. It's going to be a game object, and I'm going to call it item prefab. So we can set the item prefab inside our drop script in the inspector. So I'm going to drag it right here. And now we can actually instantiate that object and try to put it in our inventory. We said we're going to instantiate this object and then give it to the inventory controller. So I'm going to make a new game object called new item. It's going to be equals to game object dot instantiate, and I'm going to instantiate the item prefab we set in the inspector. And then I'm going to tell the inventory controller, hey man, here's the item that we made. So I need to make the function for this first. So to call functions from the inventory controller, we need an instance, a public instance, just like what we did on our player controller. You remember we have this main instance here. We are going to do something very similar here in the inventory controller. So I'm going to make a public static inventory controller, and I'm going to call it instance. You can call it main, you can call it main instance. That is up to you. I'm going to call it instance, and now we can actually call the function add item, where we're going to give a parameter of our new item. Right now we don't have this function, so let's go ahead and make that. Here, let's go to the bottom of our script, make some room for the function, and I'm going to create a public void, not void, boolean, because remember we need to know if the inventory is full or not. So if we couldn't add the item, we're going to return false. So public boolean add item, we need a game object parameter. We're going to call it item go. And then you see there's an error, and that's because we need to return something. So we're going to, let's say if the inventory is full, we're going to return false. And so we're going to do that to get rid of that error. And now we can actually see that this is okay. Now we can actually call this function from here. Few things. The instance is going to be null, this instance here, because we haven't initialized it. So we need to go to start and tell Unity that the instance, the public instance of this class is going to be this one whenever we start this script. So the next thing we want to do, how we're going to check our inventory, is we are going to have a list of all the items in our inventory. We're going to have a list of all the slots in our inventory. So we're going to check through each item. So is this a potion? No. Is this a potion? No, no. And when we actually see that there is a potion here, we're going to take this and we're going to add a quantity 1 to the potion we already have. However, if we don't have a potion in our inventory, we'll check, okay, no potion, no potion, no potion. I checked all my items, there is no potion. So I need to find the first empty slot that I see. And if it's empty, I'm going to create the HP potion that we already created. We're going to place it here. And then if there is no room, because all of our items, all of our slots are full with items, then we're going to say, okay, all the slots are full. I cannot pick this potion, so I'm going to destroy the UI object that I made, and I'm going to keep this one on the floor. So first we need to create a list of items. I'm going to call it items. And this is the list that is going to contain all of our items, of course. And then we're going to make a list of transforms. I'm going to call it slots. And this also is going to contain all the slots in our inventory. We're going to check all items. Then we're going to check all slots. This is very simple. For each item, this item here, I'm going to call it I in items. Why I call it I? Well, I want to compare this with the main item that we're trying to add to our inventory, and I will set that up here. Item equals item go, which is the game object, dot get component item. So this here is the item we're trying to add. This I here is all the items that we already have in our inventory, and we're going to compare it one to one. So if item is already inside, so how do we check this? Well, if I.getType equals item.getType, so if the item is already in our inventory, we're just going to increase the quantity of the item we already have there. So to do that, we already have a very similar function called deplete, but we need the opposite function. So we're going to go ahead to item, we're going to copy this function here, and we're going to name it add. This time we, however, are going to have a parameter called amount. Is going to be an integer. So maybe you're buying 10 items at once, or maybe you're picking up 20 items that someone dropped at the same time. So we want to add an amount of items. We're going to use that parameter for that. The quantity, instead of being minus minus, is going to be plus equals the amount. We're also going to set the quantity text. This time we're not going to destroy the game object if it's 0, because we're adding. However, you could add a limitation to your amount of items that you can have in one slot. So let's say you want to have a maximum of 99 items per slot. Here's where you set that limitation. My game, however, is not going to have limitation, so you can carry as much items as you want in your slots. So now instead of deplete, we're going to go ahead and call I.add, and since we're picking up one item, I'm going to type here 1. For now is the example of this tutorial, and we are going to return true because we actually picked the item. Now, if we didn't actually find the item inside our inventory, we're just going to go through all the items. Okay, we never returned true. So now we need to go to the next case, which is check all the slots. So again, for each variable slot, for each transform slot in underscore slots, if does not contain an item, how do we check this? Well, if slot.getComponent in children, so this is going to check all the children of the slot in its hierarchy, the children and the children of the children, and it's going to see if there is anything with an item component. So if this is null, that means it couldn't find any item within the hierarchy of the slot. We are going to set this game object inside this slot. So we're going to say item go dot transform dot set parent slot, and careful here, we need to reset the transform. So item go dot transform dot local scale equals vector 3.1. item go dot transform dot local position equals vector 3.0. And finally, we are going to return true because we actually picked the item and we put it inside an empty slot. However, if we couldn't find any empty slot, because every time here, okay, it finds something with an item, so it's not null, it's not null, it's not null, all the way throughout our whole inventory, we're going to go to our last case, which is the inventory was full. So we're going to return false. Now, there's two cases where we have to destroy the game object that we created, which is the UI object. So the first one is, of course, if we couldn't pick up the item, we're going to go ahead and call game object dot destroy, and we're going to destroy item go. Because it makes sense. We created the UI object that we were supposed to place here, for example, but actually the whole inventory was full. So, okay, we couldn't edit, destroy it. The other case is when we actually have the item already, we don't want to create one more because we're actually just adding quantity to the one we already have. So before we return true here, we're going to go game object dot destroy item go, and there you go. And now the last thing we want to do is actually slots list, and this items list is empty. So if we run this program, it's going to skip this and skip this because this count is 0. There is no slots. So we're going to go here to start, and we're going to initialize lists. Let's get all the slots first. So let's check the hierarchy here. You see inventory, background, content has all our slots. So I'm going to rename this to slots. It's easier to find later on here. And I'm going to use the same that we used to find the cancel button. But in this case, I'm just going to go until the background here, and I'm going to find slots. All right. This is a transform that contains all of our slots. So I'm going to use it in a for each loop. So for each, I'm going to do something like what we did down there, transform slot, and we're going to copy this and put it here. So for each transform that there is inside these slots, this is going to return every slot here, all those. We're going to add them to this list. So slots.add slot. And now if the slot, so we could do it here, we could check here for each slot. If any slot has an item, we could add them, or we could do it here in our start function of the item. So this is up to you to decide. I'm going to do it here just to keep it simpler. If slot.get component in children item is not null, so if it has an item, I'm going to go ahead and do items.add, and I'm going to do this one here. So if it has an item, I'm going to get that item and also add it to the items list. And that reminds me that if we pick a new item, we should also add it to the items list. Otherwise, we will not check it when we pick it up from the ground. We will always treat it as a different item. So here, we already have it, so it's not this one, it's here when we need to add it. So down here, items.add, and we're going to add item, which is the item from the game object, this one here. So I think this now feels like it's ready, so we can go back to the inspector. We have the HP potion drop. We have the HP potion drop. Make sure it's trigger. Take a look at our hierarchy. If we walk over our HP potion, well, it increased the quantity. There you go. It became 2. Let me focus on that. Here, you see it became 2. So now I saw something, and is that we didn't destroy this. So I can walk on top of it and keep getting more and more potions. So what we want to do is that here in the drop class, this function here returns a boolean. So we know if we could pick it up or not. So we're going to make a if statement. So if we actually can pick this item and add it to the inventory, we're going to go ahead and do GameObject.destroy this.GameObject. We want to destroy the drop if we can actually pick it up. That will prevent us from picking it up multiple times. So now if I go ahead and pick it up, you'll see it's 2 there. And now if I use my potion first, so that there is no potion here, and I take this item, there is an error. Okay, so the error is actually quite common in Unity. It happened to me before, and it's the problem with the list. When you destroy an object, and we destroy the object when we use the potion, when you destroy an object that belongs into a list, this list is going to have a missing member. So it's not going to, the list is not going to update by itself. You need to clean it yourself. And how do you clean it? Well, if you have a list of items, the best thing you can do is go to item class and make a onDestroy. This onDestroy function is going to be called anytime someone destroys this script. So if someone destroys this, we need to remove the item from the inventory so that it doesn't become a missing member of the list. So here in inventory controller, I'm going to go to the end of the list. I'm going to go to the end of the script. I'm going to make a new function, a public void, and I'm going to call it remove item. And I'm going to give an item parameter. So item. Very simple. What I'm going to do is check if the items list contains the item that I'm trying to remove. And if it contains this item, I'm just going to type items.remove, and we're going to remove that item. So this will make sure that our list of items is always clean. So now we can go back to the item class again. On destroy, we're going to call inventory controller dot instance dot remove item, and we're just going to tell it to remove this item, the one we're trying to destroy. So now we can go ahead and play it one more time. I'm going to drink the potion, so I destroy it, and if I go ahead and take it, you will see the potion goes to the first empty slot it found. And that's great. That's the second case. So we complete the first case, which is okay, we increase the quantity of the potion we already have. We can also find an empty slot and add the potion there. But what happens if our inventory is full? Well, oh, this is going to take some time. So now our inventory is full of swords. So if I go ahead and try to pick this item here, you see I'm not picking it up because it's full. The inventory is full. So you could actually print a message there in the drop class here. You could do else debug.log inventory is full. So your player could say something like my inventory is full or something like that. And then the player will know that he needs to get rid of some items. So I'm going to try this again. I'm going to walk over the potion and you will see inventory is full here in the console. And we can make some room by stacking up 2 swords. And I'm going to pick up the potion and there you go. And that's it for this video. We did it. Congratulations. So thank you so much guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I really hope you learned something. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comments. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you all on the next one.